With that, Peter Schrager's watching our nonsense cheat sheet Fox Sports app. Good morning, football. What'd you make? Anything that jumped out at you? I know people think I'm nuts on the Niners, but I think Trey Lance can play. I don't know.
You know, he's we'll see. I mean, we don't know that. No Steelers, no Ravens, no Browns. I think all three of those teams will bounce back this year. So I'm going to stay quiet. Your hierarchy is your hierarchy. Gosh, the Broncos sure got a lot of love for not being good in a decade, but okay. That's fine.
Okay. So, hey, explain to me, I really thought Howie Roseman, the GM of Philly, said, listen, Dallas lost production. Giants didn't pick up Daniel Jones' contract. I thought they smelled blood. I thought they said, this is a go-for-it moment to get A.J. Brown, who's a great wide receiver. How did it play? Give me the backstory, because that is a rare draft day move to steal a top 5 receiver talent.
Yeah, the Eagles had the 15th and the 19th pick in the draft, and they looked at the chessboard, and they wanted one of those top wide receivers. But they realized there was going to be no chance one of those top 4, which was Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Jamison Williams, and of course, the Chris Olave were going to slip to them at 15. So they had to be aggressive. Now, when it seemed like that wasn't going to work out, they said, okay, let's get an even better wide receiver. A.J. Brown is 24 years old. He was the number 1 receiving option on the number 1 team in the AFC throughout the regular season last year. And they got him because they were willing to pay him. Tennessee was not. They also did that without giving up a first-round pick. They also did that with Jordan Davis being a first-round selection also. And then I give Howie credit because it's not like they just rest on their laurels. Cam Jurgens is going to take over for center from Jason Kelsey. They got him later on in day 2. And then they also added Nakobe Dean, who there was questions about an injury, but in the 3rd round, Nakobe Dean won every award as a linebacker at Georgia and might have been the alpha of all those alphas on that defense. So I think it was a home run for the Eagles. Now, you can question whether Jalen Hurts is going to be the quarterback in the future or not. Well, guess what? They still have 2 first-round picks for next year's draft. So Howie gets a lot of dragging in the Philly media market, but I think he played this chessboard perfectly and took advantage of Tennessee not wanting to give A.J. Brown that huge long-term commitment.
So Fox Bet did not change the Arizona Cardinals line with the DeAndre Hopkins injury or PED violation. And my takeaway was Rondale Moore, because Christian Kirk's gone, those 54 catches become 70. He's an emerging star. Hollywood Brown, who played with Kyler in college, they had huge numbers at Oklahoma. And it's funny, you know, I look at that move and I'm like, man, their depth chart on offense, Schrags, is silly. It's an all-star team. I looked at that DeAndre Hopkins story and I'm like, is it a big deal? I mean, how's it viewed by you?
I think it's a monster deal, but you know what? It's those first 6 games. So the Cardinals were 7-0 with Hopkins and Murray, and then Murray, you know, is dialed in MVP talk, and then Hopkins goes down and they kind of fall off a cliff. I think Hopkins is huge, but I do tend to think they're going to be okay. When you add a Marquise Brown, who is all speed, when you add a Rondale Moore, when you add a Trey McBride in the 2nd round at a Colorado State, who's going to play a key role on this offense, and you bring back Zach Ertz, you bring back James Conner, you bring back A.J. Green, the names keep going on and on and on. I would add this, though I don't have it on a firm grasp. I assume the Cardinals knew this suspension was going down.
Yeah.
That wasn't just a bomb that was dropped on them yesterday. So they had to game plan around this. Kyler's connection with Marquise Brown is very important here. They were not only college teammates, they're best friends and still best friends. Such good friends that this was done and the deal was done, and Hollywood managed to be on a plane during the draft so that by the time the draft party occurred for the Cardinals, he was there in attendance. Kyler is probably in his best mind frame with the organization after that trade. But voluntary starts, and with no Hopkins, probably no Kyler, probably no Colt McCoy. You're looking at, I think that the quarterback, I think, is Trey McSorley, the old Penn State quarterback for voluntaries, which looks more like a USFL team than it does an NFL team when you're starting off with none of your stars on the field for voluntary workouts.
Kenny Pickett to Pittsburgh. So it was a smokescreen because we kept hearing, Mike Tomlin. It loves Malik Willis. Were you shocked at all that, I mean, it really was a referendum that the GMs outside of Pittsburgh and Pickett, They didn't like any of these quarterbacks. They viewed them all as either not talented or prospects. Did that surprise you?
It didn't surprise me they went quarterback, but I'll put my hand up here. I did very well on my final mock draft. Feel really good about it, but I had a different quarterback. I had Willis going at 20, and the reason was there was nothing coming out of Pittsburgh that they had this fond feeling for Pickett. And mind you, they see Pickett every day. If you haven't been to the Pittsburgh facility, it's the Steelers right here and the Pittsburgh Panthers right here. So Pickett was right under their nose for years. And I thought it was quite an indictment against Pickett that we hadn't heard from day one, like, oh, the Steelers love Pickett. They see him every day. They see him compete. They see him work every day in practice, but they also see him, how he handles the staff there in the buildings. So the fact that there was no buzz around Pickett to the Steelers, and that came internally from Pittsburgh, usually you hear something, it made me think, okay, if they don't like Pickett and they're not high on Pickett, well then I don't know who is going to be high on Pickett because they see the guy compete on a daily basis. Turns out they were just really good at keeping the cards close to their vest. This is really interesting because we had Mike Tomlin on in the draft, day 3 for NFL Network, and I straight up asked him, I'm like, is there a chance he starts day 1? And he's like, yeah, he'll compete. He'll compete not only with Trubisky, but with Mason Rudolph. So they went around the globe doing all the pro days. They were at Ritter's pro day. They were at Malik Willis's pro day. And the guy that they liked all along was right under their nose, and they kept it from us pretty well.
Said yesterday the Jets had a draft that is about as good a draft as I can remember. I think the first 4 guys are all starters. 3 could be high-end starters. You could even go to their top 5 because Ruckert, many saw him as the second best tight end. It's just that's about as good as you can do. Now, they didn't have late picks, so their hit rate's going to be much higher than the typical draft. I mean, you're close to the franchise. It felt like it just came together. Like some drafts, the guys fall at the positions you need. That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, and look, Sauce was their guy from February. Like at the Combine, I knew it was going to be Sauce. That was their guy at 4 if he fell to them. Fortunately, Houston took another corner. They took Stingley at 3, so Sauce gets there. And then they were hoping to get a wide receiver. Drake London goes at 8, Garrett Wilson, they're through with that. The real gem of this draft is at 26, because I can tell you that Jermaine Johnson II was not only one of the top players on their board, he was a top 8 player on their board. And though I don't have it on confirmed status, he was in the same conversation as Thibodeau. So they liked both those guys as the top 2 pass rushers. So once he started slipping out of the top 10, top 12, top 13, I could tell you Joe Douglas was on the phone. He was making calls, trying to trade back in to the top 20 to get Jermaine Johnson. It wasn't until 26 that they found a trade partner, and they got a guy who was a top 8 player on their board. Now you go the next day. The Breece Hall pick is being overlooked in New York because they got these 3 first-rounders. They were trying to get back in the first round to get Breece Hall. So when there was rumors that Houston might want Breece Hall with the second pick of the day 2, they moved up with the Giants and they get Breece Hall. Let's just look at it as 4 first-rounders when they went into the day with just 2 picks. And I can tell you they're very excited there, but they're also very modest with their expectations. They know what that AFC looks like. They know that these are rookies, and they're going to have to temper expectations locally because all 4 of those guys may go on to be great players. You're still playing against the Bills, still playing against the Dolphins, and you're still playing against the Patriots.
Good stuff. Peter Schrager, Fox Sports NFL reporter. Loved your coverage of all of it. You crushed on your mock draft. Good seeing you, buddy. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.